And today is February the 14th, 2026. It's Valentine's Day, and today we're going to talk about love. So, Father, thank you for this opportunity to talk about what Valentine's Day is all about. Well, for many people, today is, of course, a day in which they can show their love and appreciation. It was interesting that on Wednesday, I was driving my school bus, and all the young people were coming onto the school bus, and they were carrying all the Valentines that, of course, they received from their friends at school. And I saw this one young man. He was looking through his Valentines and he was smiling because one of the young ladies on the bus had, of course, given him a Valentine, and they were talking together and they were having a wonderful conversation, maybe about the Valentine, maybe about something else. But there's something very special about getting a Valentine, but getting a special gift for a friend or a loved one. And it was interesting that yesterday, my wife and I had the privilege of not only, spending some time in the city, but also as well, going to a Valentine banquet last night. It was a 1920s Paris theme. So we had a really wonderful time. And it was held in the community in which we live, and also as well, my wife and my son and my daughter-in-law were part of the presentation, part of the whole presentation, and part of the planning of the night. So I had the privilege, of course, of watching them perform. My daughter-in-law, for example, she sang 1920s. She was portraying a Paris nightclub singer, and she was singing songs in French. Now, for my daughter-in-law, her first language, of course, is English. Her next language is, of course, Norwegian. But for the special occasion, she learned how to sing in French, which was really interesting. My son, Ryan, he played both the accordion, the bass, and the guitar. And my wife, of course, she played the piano because she's a piano teacher. And I thought, as I was sitting there watching them perform, I thought, wow, this is absolutely great. That was a wonderful time to not only spend with them. And my granddaughter, Mira, who's almost 8 years old, she was there as well, portraying children during that particular time period as well. Everybody was dressed up in 1920s garb, and I put my beret back on backwards, and I kept it on there that way until my granddaughter actually came along and said, Papa, you need to turn your hair, your beret backwards, which I did, and we had a wonderful time. Well, let me tell you the story behind Valentine's. It's a great, great story, and it gives us perspective of why actually we have Valentine's Day. So, back in the third century AD, there was, of course, a Roman emperor who was, expanding the Roman Empire territory. Now, he, of course, needed troops and he needed people to be able to man his campaigns. And so he would go throughout the empire, and he would, get these young men and to, become in his army. Unfortunately for him, there was a Roman law that basically said if you were planning to get married or you were married, you were allowed a certain amount of time off every year to spend with your family. A lot of the Roman legionnaires, of course, were not just, they were kind of dual citizens, or they had dual occupations. And so they would have to go back and, of course, sow their crops and become farmers for a certain amount of time so that they could feed the Roman Empire. Well, of course, they had to have time off to sow their crops, or if they got married, they were allowed to spend time with their family every year. So this became a major problem with the Roman leader. He wanted to, expand his empire, and he was dealing with these two laws. The one particular law, of course, was he said, you know what? Too many of these young men are using the excuse that they needed to spend time with their loved ones, with their wives. So he did something that no one ever thought could be thinkable. And what was that thing? He outlawed marriage in the Roman Empire. He said, okay, those that are married, you can stay married. But for those who want to get married and are Roman legionnaires or prospects to the Roman army, you are not allowed to get married. And that was the background to what we're talking about today. There was a guy whose name was Valentine. Valentine was actually a Roman clergyman. He was a Christian clergyman in the Roman Empire. And this was prior to, of course, Christianity becoming the religion of the empire under Constantine. And so he took it upon himself to basically oppose the edict that was given by, of course, the Roman emperor. And he went and he would marry young people who wanted to get married. In those days, of course, all they had to do was stand before a religious figure. It could be, a local temple official or a Christian clergyman. And the clergyman or the religious individual would perform the ceremony, and then the couple could go down to the registrar and basically have their marriage registered. So Valentine took it upon himself to, marry as many young people as possible. Why? Because he saw it as an affront not only to law and order, but also as well his Christian conviction. And so that is the background behind, of course, Valentine's. You have this Roman emperor who basically says, you know what? Marriage is a problem that we are having in the Roman Empire. He says this institution is keeping people from, of course, serving in the local army. He says, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it outlawed. People who are married can stay married, but anybody who wants to get married, they can't get married, especially those that are planning to become part of the Roman, army to take the world. And so of you have Valentine saying, no, this is wrong. Young people need to get married. We don't want people living in sin. We don't want people, because in the thought of Valentine, he says marriage is the one institution that, of course, keeps the family together. He saw that marriage was the backbone of course, society. And today we're suffering from that problem because many people are living together. And this is something that people don't know. 90% of those who live together for a period of time end up breaking apart. And then, of course, all that goes with it. And especially if they break apart and they don't basically have children together, then it causes another problem. I know what I'm talking about because my mom and my dad lived together for 4 years. They had a son together, which is my younger brother, or was my younger brother, because my younger brother's gone to be with the Lord. But it was interesting that during those 4 years, we thought we had a stable home. But when I was 10 years old, my mom, for whatever reason, decided to, break the family apart. We were living apart from our dad for about 6 months, and my mom couldn't make it. She was struggling with 4 kids and she couldn't make it. Finally, she phoned my dad up, who at the time had sold our house and had moved to Ontario. She contacted him and asked him to come back. Well, guess what? They got married and they were together for a number of years. Now, my mom, of course, broke it apart again. But the simple fact was that, during those years that they were married, our home was stable. Our home was progressive. And my brother and I, in our teen years, grew up in a stable home. And we were able to both see the importance of having a stable home. My brother, my older brother, who's 5 years older than I was, when he decided to get married, I'll never forget, we had a conversation, and his thoughts were simply this. He says, I grew up in a situation where everything was unstable. My brother, at the time of the breakup, when my dad and my mom broke up, was 15 years old. And my brother did not handle the breakup too well. In fact, just a year later, my brother left home to move in with our biological father. Well, when my brother was getting married back in 1975, he made a decision. And that decision was that he was going to be married for life. My brother has been married now for 51 years. And I had the privilege of spending time, or I have the privilege of spending much time with my older brother now. And I've seen the stability of what has happened by staying together for all those years. My brother has a wonderful family. He has a close relationship with both his daughters, and he has wonderful grandchildren that love and care about him. He made a decision that out of the confusion of all the things that were going around, he was going to stay with the right woman. My brother went through many different girlfriends and many different relationships, but when he found the right woman, he stayed with her. Well, I myself had made the decision as well that when I got married, I would be married for life as well. I've been with my wife since 1977, and we started off as boyfriend and girlfriend, then fiancés, and now we've been married since 1979. We understood that marriage is a lifetime commitment. And in the Roman Empire, basically they thought the same thing. So here you have, of course, the Roman emperor understanding that, the best way to deal with the problem of recruitment and also the Roman law of marriage, he said, I'm just going to outlaw marriage. Well, Valentine, of course, being a clergyman and understanding what love was really all about, he defied the emperor. And he paid for it. He ended up going to jail and almost losing his life over the situation. Well, pressure built, and finally he was released. And also, as well, the institution of marriage was repealed. And of course, he stood up for love, and he stood up for commitment, and he stood up, of course, for values. And we need people like Valentine today. Well, of course, we know today that, Valentine's Day has been reduced to, chocolates and, flowers and, acts of love and little Valentine kisses and Valentine's card. But we don't want to lose the essence of what Valentine's Day is all about. It's all about love and relationships and finding that special person and showing that particular, aspect of love. Yesterday, my wife and I went to the city, and we went and did our grocery shopping, and my wife had to have some medical things done. And so while she was doing the medical things, I went to the grocery store. And in the grocery store, they had, this one section, of course, where they have flowers. So I picked up the flowers, and I picked her up from the Tim Hortons that she was waiting at. We had some breakfast together at Tim Hortons. And she got in the car, and she saw the flowers. Well, she gave me the look that only she can give. And of course, it was absolutely wonderful. And then, of course, last night we went to a Valentine's banquet that was held at a local establishment here in where I live. And my wife was part of the program. My son and my daughter in law were part of the program. It was a wonderful time. And of course, my granddaughter, Mira, who is almost 8 years old, was part of the activity as well. And I had the privilege of she actually said, Papa, I want you to sit beside me. So I sat beside her and we had a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And she was expounding to me about what love was all about. I said, well, tell me, what do you think love's all about? Well, she said, Papa, I see how my dad, treats my mom. And she says, my dad treats my mom with such love and respect. She says, that's the type of man that I want when I get married. And I thought, isn't that wonderful? My son is exhibiting and demonstrating and role modeling what a man should be like when it comes to treating his wife that way. And my granddaughter was watching that and observing that and saying, I want a man in my life like my dad. My dad shows love every single day to, of course, his wife. Where did he learn that? Well, he watched me with my wife, and he watched how I treated my wife because I had learned very early in the example that I saw between my mom and my dad what could go wrong. And I said to myself, I'm not going to allow that to happen. My brother, of course, saw the same situation and came to the same decision. So here we are, so many decades later, married to the same women that we had. We saw what could go wrong, and we made the decision that, we were going to do everything we can to do it right. Have we done it right? Not every day. Sometimes we blow it in big time. But both my brother and I have learned that, it's okay to admit that you're wrong. It's okay to admit that you need to rectify the situation and stay sorry and say sorry. Paul puts it this way. He says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Phyllis Diller said this. She says, don't let the sun go down on your wrath. Stay up and fight. Either way, love is appreciating the person that you're with. Jesus said this, and I love how he said it. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Many people often call this the golden rule. Well, the simple fact is this: treat people the way that you want to be treated. Don't allow the harshness and the reality of the world around you keep you from treating people the way that you want to be treated. I know that there are many opportunities out there to be hurt. I know that there are many opportunities out there to be betrayed and offended. You know what the answer to all those things are? Forgiveness. Walking in forgiveness today and walking in love. It's yours and my choice today to do that. And I would encourage you to do that today. So today, being a day of love, I would encourage you to love. It was it was Paul who said, beloved, let us love. Or no, I'm sorry. It was John who said in 1 John 4:7-8, beloved, let us love one another, for love is of God, and everyone that loveth is born of God and knoweth God. He that loveth not knoweth not God, for God is love. So today, on this Valentine's Day, walk in love. That's my thoughts for you today. Thank you for spending time with me. My name's Robert Dean Steele. Also, as well today, I want to remind you that, of course, if you like what you're hearing and saying, press the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, as well, check out my daily shorts. Every day, I do a series of vignettes, small videos that, of course, have one theme. and they're usually under 1 minute. It doesn't take much of your time, but it could be a thought that it can encourage or even change your day. Have yourself a great and godly day. My name is Robert Dean Steele. Thanks for spending time with me today, and have a happy Valentine's Day.